What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So yesterday I made a video giving out 8 hard truths that I personally think NHL fans need to accept at this point, and a lot of them were pretty negative, pessimistic hard truths. So I decided, because I was so mean to maybe some people telling them the truth, that I would flip it and have you guys tell me some hard truths. So on my Instagram, I asked you guys to send in your hard truths, basically takes that I have had in the past like 12 to 18 months that have aged like shit. And at this point, I kind of got to admit are wrong or relative to players that I really like or team, obviously my New York Islanders that I really like. What do I need to accept at this point now in December of 2024? What are some hard truths that I need to accept? So we're going to go through 12 of them. You guys sent in like over 100. Again, MB on Hockey if you want to be involved in these kind of videos. But we're going to go through them right now. And I basically agree with all of them. I might be tweaking some of them just a little bit. So I do agree with them. But yeah, you guys really brought some heat and really opened my eyes to some things that I just need to accept at this point. Up first, we got this from Lou Jacobs. John Tavares is a top 5 second line center in the league, and he's a top 50 player. Not sure I can go top 50. I think if you said top 75, top 60, I could agree with that. But yeah, John Tavares has bounced back in a big way, hovering around a point per game, solid both ways of the ice. He has been awesome for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And maybe the Islanders fan in me was hoping that last year was signs of regression. Still at a very good 65 points. I never acted like he was some horrible player, but I'm not going to lie. Of course, I was kind of rooting on his downfall, thinking 65 points, maybe next year he'll get 60, then 55, then he'll be completely washed up. But no, it's looking like John Tavares yet again. Yeah, I agree with that. Top 5 second line center in the entire NHL has really excelled in his role. At times has been better than Austin Matthews this season. He's been great. And I got to admit that John Tavares having a good, especially with the deal that he's probably going to sign relatively soon, that's going to be like actually at market value, or honestly a steal for the Toronto Maple Leafs, redeeming himself in Toronto after 6 years. Next up, sticking with going from a former Islander to the current Islanders, L. McGillis 19 says Islanders are in the regression phase before the rebuild. And I think the Islanders are going to play better the rest of the season, especially coming off such a devastating loss to the Chicago Blackhawks. But yeah, I think we got to agree with this at this point. There's a chance that they could sneak into the final wild card because the New York Rangers are playing so bad, because their competition is like the Ottawa Senators and the Philadelphia Flyers. But in terms of actually being a dangerous team, I'm not going to act like I thought they were a contender before this season, but I thought with the additions of Duclair as well as Max Soplakov, who has been amazing for the New York Islanders, that maybe they could be a dangerous team. Yeah, at this point, the ceiling for this team is probably a first-round exit, losing 6 games. Like, I don't really see it with this team. Again, I don't think that they're this bad because they've had just apocalyptically bad special teams and had some bad injuries. But yeah, previously I said you just got to run out with this group for the next 3 to 4 years and just eventually rebuild. If they traded Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri, their 2 pending UFAs tomorrow, I'd be on board. It's probably time to fully tear this down, or tear down a lot of it, because this team has kind of just hit a plateau ever since 2022, and it has not been fun as a fan. They're just losing in the most devastating ways. It's not even like they're beating the teams they're supposed to and then like coming up short playing good games. They're blowing leads. They're scraping by overtime and shootout losses. Just not that fun. It's not that fun to watch my favorite team right now. Next up, XX Edgelord 420, interesting username, says, obviously by now, but Gauthier ain't going anywhere near the Calder. And yeah, this is a soft truth. Basically, after the first month of the season, I said that it's over. I obviously picked Cutter Gauthier to win the Calder, but that was, you can watch the clips on it. I wasn't saying that he was going to be a straight up better player than Matvei Michkov or even Mackin Celebrini this season, and definitely not for the rest of their career. So I was not trying to insinuate that. I just, again, thought that considering he started out in preseason, at least on the same line as Leo Carlsson and Troy Terry, looked like they were clicking. I thought the overall opportunity was going to be very impressive compared to like the Philadelphia Flyers having Morgan Frost as a center. And I thought San Jose was not going to be a pretty fun offensive team that they have turned into. Big L on me, but that's not really a hard truth. Again, I kind of admitted this after the first month of the season. Next, we got this from Matt Mag 1013. 2023, Jason Robertson was fugazi. And what did he have that season? Like 46 goals, 63 assists, 109 points at 23 or 24 years old. But yeah, fast forward 2 years, a year and a half later, it's pretty ugly. When looking at him, I still think that he is a very, very good top line, elite top line 2-way player. But yeah, I think people have just caught up how to defend him. When looking at Jason Robertson, he has been one of the slowest players just straight up in the entire NHL. Defenses have obviously adapted to him now that they have 3-4 years of game film on him, and he has honestly regressed in his skating ability. If he makes massive, if he gets a new skating coach and changes up something massive the next couple off seasons, maybe he can return to that. Because again, I don't think that his shooting has fallen off a cliff, and he has taken defensive strides. But yeah, in terms of his transitional game and overall skating ability, it is in the gutter right now. And as a result, his production has massively fallen off for the Dallas Stars. I was a big Jason Robertson guy, but it's ugly right now. Math Alex 42 says, Lane Hutson is one of the best players in the 2022 draft, equal with Slavkovsky and Cooley. And yeah, I was never really low on Lane Hutson. I defended him. There's a lot of Lane Hutson haters, but the hard truth is that the fact that he potentially could go number one in a redraft of the 2022 draft. Don't get me wrong, 2022 draft is looking like one of the worst drafts of the past 15 to 20 years. It's not really saying that much, but yeah, Lane Hutson, guy's an absolute stud on second power play. What does he have right now? Like 20 points in 30 games. It's remarkable what he's doing. When this Montreal Canadiens team finally all kind of hits their primes, it is going to be scary what this guy can do offensively. I think at this point, the floor is probably a 65-point defenseman, as crazy as that is to say, and he has potential ceiling to go for like 90 if Montreal's other pieces really hit, not just him. But yeah, Lane Hutson is awesome. Next up, we got this from Algo Quinn. No one cares about goaltender interference in the NHL or on the NHL board. And yeah, I think we all kind of got to agree with this. I've bitched about goalie interference. It's been 3 to 4 years of this crap, just completely subjective calls going for or against your teams, or just any game that you're watching. You just see at least like one bad call every other game, basically. Nothing has changed. Nothing tells me that anything's going to change. I'd go so far to say also with LTIR, I know that you kind of got to negotiate it in the CBA, but I don't really expect that to change that much. These things that people clearly have complaints with, the NHL board just seems to not really care that much. It stinks, but it's kind of a hard truth. We all got to agree. This one was inevitable. Umar Razi says, Quinn Hughes over Adam Fox. And yeah, if you watch my last video, you can tell that I probably agree with this, considering I said Quinn Hughes is on the same level as Cale Makar. Makar isn't the consensus, no doubt, best defenseman anymore. So yeah, definitely right now, I have Quinn Hughes over Adam Fox. This offseason, I still had Adam Fox. They were like number 12 and number 13. And I wasn't trying to say Adam Fox was better than Quinn Hughes in the 2023-2024 season. Quinn Hughes was by far my Norris winner. I just, again, needed more than one season of Hughes being definitively better than Adam Fox, because Adam Fox was better than Quinn Hughes from 2021 to like 2023 because he's 2 years older. But now that Quinn Hughes yet again is playing like the best defenseman in the entire NHL, hand up, I have Quinn Hughes now ahead of Adam Fox. Don't barbecue me. Speaking of New York defensemen, Matthew Veneris says Noah Dobson is not a top 20 defenseman. And yeah, I think this offseason I had Noah Dobson at like 13 or 14. I mean, that was coming off a 70-point season on a pretty boring New York Islanders team. But yeah, he's not top 20. I'm not even sure he's top 30 at this point, considering some of the lapses that he's had for my New York Islanders. The defensive game has just not progressed at all and honestly regressed. And just overall, the Islanders offensively have been a disaster, especially on that power play. But he has a lot to blame, considering he is that top power play offensive quarterback. It's been ugly. I still think he's obviously a very good player, but he has lost himself a lot of money this season to start out, considering he's a pending RFA. And yeah, no longer a top 20 defenseman. And if the Islanders don't have a legit number one center, don't have a legit number one defenseman, what the fuck is their team at the end of the day? Next up, the best Max 07. Calgary finishes with over 81.5 points. And if you followed me this offseason, that was one of my best bets coming into the season. Also was Detroit did not make the playoffs, so that one I'm going to hit. Or the Detroit under at 90.5. Just want to say I got one of them right. But with Calgary, yeah, they're on pace for like 88, 89 points. Dustin Wolf is obviously far better than I expected him to be. And they're not some horrible team. They just have a bunch of solid players throughout their forward core. Guys like Jonathan Huberdeau have looked a little bit better. Nazem Kadri's actually looked a little bit worse. They're just a bunch of average. And that they've been with good goaltending and just an average roster. Yeah, you can battle your way to like, I think they're probably going to finish like 84, 85 points this season. And there's clearly far worse teams in that like bottom 4, bottom 5 in the entire NHL that it looks like they're going to avoid. So yeah, it stinks. I went pretty all in on that take. I still think it's not like 90-10 at this point. I still think it's like 65% that they finish above 81.5, 35 to 40% that they finish below. So that could age bad, but at this point, I think the truth is that they're probably going to finish above that. Next up, we got Narc Yarchi saying Jack Hughes will never be a top 10 player. I wouldn't go so far to say top 10. If you put that to top 7, I think that's a hard truth that I could agree with. I've always been a very high on Jack Hughes. I've always been a Jack Hughes guy. And I thought he was going to turn into a top 5 player after that 2023 season when he had 98 points in 78 games at 21 or 22 years old. I think he can still be a top 10 player, considering right now this season he's probably been a top 13 to 14 player. The offense has really started to hit. He has 39 points in 33 games after a pretty lackluster start. He's been great both ways of the ice. So I still think he can be like 8 through 12. But when looking at the other stars in the NHL, don't think he's ever going to pass Connor McDavid over the next decade. Probably Nathan McKinnon either. Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, and then Kucherov's getting up there in age. But then you have, I think Celebrini's going to end up being better. Gavin McKenna, when he enters the league, is probably going to be better than Jack Hughes, and then Connor Bedard. So I think those 7 most likely will be better. Well, you got your guys Kucherov, Makar, Pasta, maybe not Pasta, but that are better right now. And then eventually you're going to have the guys like McKenna, Bedard, and Celebrini probably past Jack Hughes. So top 6, top 7 player. Definitely hard truth on top 5. I'm not sure he's ever going to be top 5 at this point. Still think he can be in that 8 to 10 range. And the New Jersey Devils their entire success, he doesn't have to for sure be a top 5 player. If he just stays 90 to 100 point great two-way guy and he can finally translate to the playoffs. He did struggle a little bit his first playoff run. They're going to be fine because the rest of their pieces are really coming along well. But yeah, probably not a top 6 player in the entire NHL. I think he's been passed in that regard. From David DeMarco, 13, the Caps are him. And yeah, I definitely need to swallow this pie considering the fact that I did have the New York Islanders in the playoffs over the Washington Capitals. Hand up, completely wrong. Washington maybe doesn't do anything extremely elite at a high level. They don't have any true superstars. They just do everything at a very good level. One of the best goalie tandems in the entire NHL after adding Chychrun, after adding Matt Roy, probably a top 6 or 7 defense core in the entire NHL. That actually might be the most elite part of their team. The top 6 has really hit. PLD as maybe not an $8.5 million player, but has found his game again as being a solid second-line center on a playoff team, akin to what he was in 2023 with the Winnipeg Jets. Strome breaking out, Protas breaking out, McMichael, and come playoff time, they're going to be adding a guy like Ryan Leonard that I think can walk in and be a highly productive player. So although, again, they're not my favorites in the Eastern Conference, I got to go hand up. They definitely are a serious threat. And then lastly, we got this from J Mills 22. This is more of like a joking one with my Ottawa one that I did in last night's video. But the New York Rangers are going to miss the playoffs and win the lottery. So James Higgins will be a blue shirt. I will my brains out if this happens. I will be so goddamn mad. First off, they need to finish bottom 11 in the entire NHL. I don't see that happening to have a shot at James Higgins because you can only jump 10 spots. But if this happened, I'd be distraught. Like, I remember where I was when they won the draft lottery for Lafreniere. Thankfully, Lafreniere never really turned into that franchise superstar. But if they somehow won the lottery and stole James Higgins, who actually grew up a New York Islanders fan, I would be distraught. I would be absolutely distraught. He was supposed to eventually come to the New York Islanders. Either we win the draft lottery or he wants his way out to the New York Islanders. I'll be gutted. That would suck. Then they have a core of Perreault, Lafreniere, Higgins. They would probably fully blow it up at that point or definitely trade some of the old guys and would be well on their way to retooling back to success with a guy like James Higgins, a true number 1 center unlike Zibanejad. It would be gutting. I would hate to see that. But yeah, let me know in the comments. What do you think about these hard truths? What are some other hard truths that I simply need to accept at this point? A little bit of humble pie I ate today. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.